Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us remotely is Kevin Mahn. He's the Chief Investment Officer with Hennion and Walsh Asset Management. We're going to be taking a look at the stock market recovery and should you be thinking about timing the market and what areas to take a look at. Kevin, it's great to have you with me. As always, I've had you on my show at least once a quarter, and the different conferences we attend for the past 3 to 4 years, I don't think I ever would have expected back in January that we would be doing this remotely right now.
Yeah, me either, Jill, but it's very nice to be back on with you again. I'm glad to hear that you're doing well. And I'm looking forward to providing some, hopefully, interesting outlooks for the stock market in the months and quarters ahead.
Yeah, and it always is interesting. And I think the days of uncertainty and volatility, there's still more in front of us. What do you think about in terms of, timing the bottom? We hear that a lot, V-shape, L-shape, U-shape. What are you looking at?
Yeah, timing, as you know, Jill, is often an exercise in futility, and we strongly advise against trying to time the market, trying to sell and then wonder when to get back in at the appropriate time, especially if you're a longer-term investor. The one thing that I will note that I do agree with you that the days of volatility are certainly not behind us, but the extent of the stimulus that we've seen from both the Federal Reserve and the federal government this far, while it will not prevent all but certain recession in the quarters ahead, it will help to limit the overall extent and duration of that recession once this awful pandemic is behind us. So what I will say to investors is not to try and time the market, but it's often helpful to remember that historically stock markets generally do recover prior to the economy recovering.
All right, let's take a look at 2 investment themes that you are considering at the moment, and the first one is focusing on quality.
Absolutely. There's a traditional asset allocation blend, the 60-40 blend, which allocates 60% to equities and 40% to bonds. That may be even more appropriate for investors to consider in this environment, but I would stress a focus on quality with those allocations. On the equity side, what do I mean by quality? I mean those companies that have low debt on their balance sheet, strong, experienced, entrenched management teams, those that have a high Altman Z-score. What's the Altman Z-score? Well, it's actually an indicator of the likelihood of a company declaring bankruptcy over the next 2 years. That may be a very worthwhile statistic in this environment. So those companies with a higher Altman Z-score have a lower probability of declaring bankruptcy, something to look at. Also, those companies that have a history of growing earnings and pay dividends are generally quality companies. But that extends also to fixed income, Jill. In terms of fixed income, we view quality as being those that issued by U.S. corporations or the U.S. government and those with investment-grade credit quality.
All right, and your next theme here, looking for innovators to lead the rally. And you always talk about innovation even in good times of the market, but we really can see it pull through here.
Absolutely. And we don't know what society is going to look like coming out of this pandemic. We don't know necessarily how the economy is going to look like coming out of this pandemic, but we do know that companies are going to be innovative. Those that innovate the best, those that adapt best to our changing societal norms and also the way that we transact commercially are the ones that are going to succeed the best. So look for those companies that are disruptors. Look for those companies that bring new products to market and embrace technology to adapt to these ever-changing economic conditions. We expect those types of companies to lead the recovery.
All right, Kevin, thanks for joining us. As always, hope to see you in studio sooner than later.
I do as well. Stay safe.
Thank you, and thank you for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.